Jendayi, last we met, I think it was in Tanzania, you were talking to me about the commodity exchange platform you wanted to build. You've come from public service into a place of broader leadership beyond the public service, the private sector leadership as well. And I remember the letter that you co-authored to President Trump asking that he set standards that the rest of the population in the United States will feel the presidency that he's going to have aligns with the value set that historically has been the case. So I see all these diverse set of actions, all of them pointing to excellence, standards. What are your frustrations about the current situation in Africa when people like yourself set a bar so high? What is the frustration that you feel when you try to set a bar so high?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And first, let me just say thank you to the church for the warm welcome and to its leadership for the invitation. Archbishop Duncan, Nicholas Duncan Williams, and Lady Rosa, thank you very much for the invitation. Before I talk about frustration, and of course there are some, I want to just chime in on one of the questions you asked about how do you recognize the change that's coming. And there's been tremendous wisdom shared this entire day. And I think that, the issue of an assignment and an issue of talent is part of that recognition of change. And when you are in your sweet spot, where it's easy for you. I, for one, have a sweet spot in conflict resolution. I can end wars. I know that about myself. When you're in that sweet spot and you've been practicing for a long time and you have tremendous experience and you've developed expertise, you see it coming. You recognize the signs.
But what about the courage? You were the first American official to jet into Somalia. To jet into Somalia.
I did, because I know how to solve conflict and I'm not scared of it. Because it's a talent, it's an assignment, it's a vision that I was given at a very young age and that I can hone and get the expertise around it. So it's easy for me. Something else could be hard, like business is not such an assignment, I must say. It's a struggle. But the point is, even if you're a basketball player or you're an academic or whatever you are, when you're really deep into your field, you can see it. You can see around the corner. It's vision and it's experience. And I just want to say that sort of practically about that question. Honing that, you have that vocation, your experience, you have expertise, you recognize the signs, and you are part of bringing about those signs as well. My frustration, I guess I would say what I found through business is impatience. I didn't realize I was an impatient person. When I was in my sweet spot, I was working and solving problems and very just practically oriented. When I went into business, I could see I had vision, I had strategy, but I couldn't necessarily have the influence to bring about the results that I wanted, whether it's influence by convincing or influence through resources, or just having the persistence and time to wait for the environment to unfold the way I then could make a move. And so I think impatience has been a big frustration, and that impatience has to do with how the world is progressing and where Africa should be in that world. And the need to move rapidly. We are talking about the young people of this continent, and we're talking about the need for job creation. We're talking about the need to institutionalize the peace that has happened, over the last 20 years. We are talking about the need to sustain and make inclusive the economic growth that has happened. Every society goes forward and moves backwards and goes forward. And hopefully it's 3 or 4 steps forward, maybe a half step backwards. But Africa has to move fast forward. And so the perception, and I think actually Obi said it very well, the knowledge of the greatness of each and every one of us and of this continent and the frustration about the little things, the little divides. You know, my little country. You know, when the size of a corporation is often bigger than the size of some GDPs of some countries. And, you know, the realization that Africa's unity is its strength, right? Everything that is needed is on this continent. Everybody's been trying to take it, including human beings, right? We've been snatched. All of the resources have been snatched. The continent has everything that will power the development of this world, not just this continent. I always say that if Europe was smart, it would build a bridge to Africa so the young people could come there and develop Europe. Truly, truly. And so it's there's a certain impatience, but what I've also learned in trying to manage that impatience and addressing, you know, the issues of energy is that the young people really, we need to, I'm now an older person, we need to move to the side and help them emerge, because that's where the energy is, that's where the innovation is, and it's natural. It's natural. It's natural. They don't know better, right? I was meeting with President Kufuor yesterday, and he was talking about actually Rosa, myself, and some others in the U.S. administration. And he's like, I remember you little girls, he called us, little girls. And I thought, you know, he's right. We were little girls. We didn't know better than to think that we could wield America's power to the benefit of Africa without limit. We didn't know any better. Young people, that lack of a sense of can't do and the energy to do and the creativity to solve problems is the answer to the continent's problem.
But yeah, I think that setting the bar also helps, because I remember there was a time that you wrote, was it to the Obama administration, about its tone in the way that it describes Africa, that its tone itself is a problem. And you know, I've heard you on numerous occasions also talk about this low bar problem for Africa, which is a kind of bigotry. Most of the people here themselves have mentors, they look up to models. Is there ever a challenge that you find for young people that, you know, you're so passionate about young people? The problem becomes the bigotry of low expectations. Do you confront that every now and then?
Well, I do think there is a bigotry of low expectations, but I don't think that's the issue. I think it's not an issue that's outside, it's an issue that's inside. And it's a mentality. And we call it colonial mentality or slave mentality. If you've been conditioned to think less of self, then you do less. Which is the point I'm saying that Obi came to this morning when she was talking about, this afternoon when she was talking about, we're meant for great things, right? There's no limit. When you talk about Nelson Mandela as the role model for the world in terms of leadership. And so I really think that the issue is in our own minds. It's not what others are expecting of us. It's conditioning and liberating the mind and realizing that one can do anything. Anything that you conceive, you can achieve. And so I think the opening the mind and freeing one's mind is the first step. That's the standard.
Interesting.